Officially, I'm going to start. Welcome to 5 Reasons Smart Women Settle for Less and the Small Shifts That Bring Big Abundance. So I started this training last week on Friday, and today we're going to cover reason number 1. So please say hello in the chat if you can see me and hear me. That would be super helpful for me. That way I know that this is actually working the way it's supposed to. And other than that, I'm going to go on sheer faith that everything's working the way it's supposed to. But I think we're good. Anybody here? All right, let's see. I've found some technical difficulties in the past, so let's hope for the best. So welcome. This is a very, very powerful training. I'm so glad for those of you who are here live, will be joining me live as this unfolds, and for all of those who will be joining the replay. So I'm going to jump right in. Hope your Tuesday is off to a great start today. So this is reason number 1. Reason number 1 why smart women settle for less is you don't believe you're worth it. You don't believe you're worth it. Hey, Helena, thank you for being here and for that confirmation. All right, so with that, let's just jump into what we're going to do today. So first of all, if you are new to me, new to this training, you can get everything you need in terms of recordings and handouts at surpassyourlimits.com/5 reasons. So you can go on over there right now. You can download the handout. You can go back later on with the recording. This will be a really great way to engage in this. So just so you know, this is a handout. And there's 3 pages. And at the top, you'll see the points that we're going to cover, and then places throughout where you can take some notes. And I like to really have people engage in some writing because it really activates all the different ways, the learning styles. So this is more than just me talking to you, but as you hear things, as you think about things, make notes of whatever is standing out for you, because that'll help you internalize it a bit more. Excuse me, let me get a little water here. All right. All right, so the purpose of today's training is to illuminate how to access your untapped power to thrive generously for yourself, your loved ones, and our world. And I like to highlight the word untapped because smart women have already tapped into a tremendous amount of power and make amazing things happen. But this is the piece that distinguishes your capacity to thrive generously versus the places that you might be settling for less. It's the places that are untapped. So the theme that we're going to be exploring throughout this training is that the places you feel unfulfilled point to the places you've been settling for less than the natural abundance that's available to you within yourself and all of life. And again, if you're just arriving, please say hello in the chat. Let me know where you're calling from. Oops, let's see here. All right. So today what we're going to cover, and you'll find this also in your handout, is why you don't feel worth it, the small shift that brings big abundance, the non-negotiable requirement to stop settling, missing asset number 1 to thrive generously. I'm going to circle back to that in a moment. Real life case studies of how this works, and a practice and a writing prompt that you can, return to go deeper with what you learned today. So when I refer to missing asset number 1 to thrive generously, this references the very first training. So if you missed the first training, I gave an overview about everything that we're going to talk about that leads up to these 5 reasons smart women settle. And one of the things you'll find in your handout, which was also in that first training, is really kind of a visual map of the 5 reasons and then the 5 assets that we're going to be unpacking. So you can actually fill in this visual map, and we're going to be referring to this in today's number 1. Okay, so why is it that you don't believe you're worth it? First of all, this might be something that you definitely are conscious of. You realize, wow, I struggle with worthiness. Sometimes I don't feel like I'm deserving. So it might be a conscious thought that you have, but it also might be something that you're not aware of. I know for myself, I used to hear a lot of people talk about, I don't feel worthy. I don't feel worth it. I feel unworthy. I don't feel like I deserve it. And that was something that never really resonated for me. It just didn't. But as I went deeper into my journey of tapping into thriving and fulfillment, I realized that there really was an underlying belief. And I like to offer this as an alternative way of looking at this, which is, I don't believe that I really can have what I want. Now, where would that come from? You might look at it through the lens of worthiness. You might not even know, but today we're going to get into what self-worth has to do with your capacity to open up to receive more of what you want. Hey, Suzanne. Let's see. When I click on reason number 1 handout, most of the slides appear blank. I don't know what to tell you about that, but I did test it out. So I would encourage you to check out another browser, maybe. Just cut and paste the link that you get and see if that helps you. Okay, thanks for letting me know. And again, I can, DM us later on and we can get that handout to you if you have trouble with it still. So back to why you don't believe you're worth it. The bottom line, the thing that we're going to go into today is that you believe that your value is based in what you do versus who you are. Now, this may or may not fully apply to you, but I'm going to invite you to stay open as we go through this teaching, because my experience after working with accomplished professional women, smart women, this is one of those pieces of incorrect or missing information that we talked about in the last session, okay? Many of us get a sense of, now going deeper into this, that our sense of self-worth and value is based in our productivity versus our presence. In other words, who we are, just who you are as a human being that simply exists. So your sense of value, your sense of power, the validation you've gotten, the compensation you've gotten, the pats on the back, the recognition has always been for what you can do and what you can produce and how smart you are and the outcomes. This goes back to that conversation we had about this desire to feel as powerful as we look on paper. So we look good on paper. We have a lot of, we can claim bragging rights to all sorts of things many times. There's, respectable, impressive results that we can produce. So we really feel good when we're connected to our productivity and what we can produce. But how do you feel about yourself when you are, quote, unproductive? When you're sitting around, when you don't have a goal, when you don't have a plan, when you don't know what to do, when you feel like you're waiting for something, how do you feel about yourself? Where's your sense of value then? In other words, you're simply being. So I talk a lot about the human doing versus the human being. This is where we start to get in touch with why we don't feel worth it, because it's contingent upon this model of my worthiness is based in what I do. And that even goes further into I have to earn my sense of worth. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. This also speaks to this phenomenon that happens when that's at play, where your sense of value is outside of you. It's externalized. Okay. It's in what it's all out of focus. People, places, conditions, outcomes, results. Okay. Instead of internally referenced, which is my sense of value, my worthiness, my just my self-worth, okay, is inside. I feel it. I know it. I know me. I know the value of my being, my presence. So this is the root of it. Now, where does this come from? Again, if you reference the very first session that we had with the overview, what we're talking about here is that we are products of our environment, and our environment can be many, many factors. Okay, so it can be your culture, race, or gender. It can be your socioeconomic reality, your family upbringing, and the time in history where we all are. So I told my story, and I encourage you to think about your own story and where did you get your messages of your value? What did you learn? What conclusions did you draw? What conclusions did you come to based on these environmental factors? So hopefully some of you have had some time to think about that and do some writing about that. And today we can go deeper into it. So what is the cost? And this is now where we start to understand how it is that we're settling. What is the cost when your sense of value is externalized, or your sense of value is based in what you do, your productivity? The cost of that, when you can't access your sense of value and worth internally, or for your mere presence, in other words, I am worthy of receiving joyful fulfillment, of thriving generously simply because I exist. Just like the majestic tree that I talked about, okay? When you don't have that frame of reference, it causes you to settle. So I'll keep checking over here to see if there's any. Please post questions and comments, and when I have these little breaks, I'll check in so I can respond to them, okay? So, and also please share if and what is resonating for you, because we can go deeper with it. So before I dive into this, you can start reading the slide if you'd like to. I just really want to anchor us in the two models of power I referenced last time. There's the doing model of power, the productivity, which values, the doing model of power values productivity, and the being model of power values presence. And so our symbols for these are the hunter and the majestic tree. So the hunter can be any gender, but when you're in hunter mode, and just one more reminder, this has nothing to do with gender, these teachings. These are principles that have to do with different ways of operating or being. So doing, being. Many times in like the realm of yin and yang, you will see masculine, feminine, light, shadow, physical, non-physical. So these are the dualities. And what happens is that when we either settle or can only go so far, it's because, again, referencing the last session, we as smart women have come to over-rely on the doing model of power because that is where we got our sense of value, while the being model of power has been malnourished. So the doer, the hunter, works really hard as the sole provider and has to earn its reward, what it receives. The being model of power, which is the majestic tree, does none of that. It's simply a being that exists. It stands, it stays, it shares, and it receives from all of life because it is a receiver. It knows how to receive. It embodies the value of its presence, and life provides. So it knows how to access the natural abundance that is always here, and it embodies natural abundance, which it circulates into the world, into life. So when it thrives, everyone thrives. Okay, so you can go back to the last training and look at that slide where I kind of compared the two. So when you're over relying on doing and you don't know how to access the power of your being or your presence, you're missing out on all this other stuff that's available to you. So what is the cost of over relying on this? It means I'm settling for what I know is possible with the doing because I don't have the correct information it's missing to access more, to thrive generously. So let's look at what this looks like. You will settle for being valued for what you do, not who you are. because you don't have a frame of reference for that, or it's malnourished. Okay. This means that you can never do enough to feel fulfilled. This is why so many accomplished professional women and smart women, they have so much success, they look great on paper, but that feeling of fulfillment, that feeling of I've arrived, that feeling of, oh my gosh, I'm thriving and everyone around me is thriving, or I know how to nurture that. It's like this itch we can't scratch because we are missing this vital information about how to access that. You will, number 2, settle for what I call the eternal self-improvement trap, which means that self-improvement is a great thing given the right context. Now, if you are approaching self-improvement because you're trying to fix yourself or become enough because you have to do more, right? Because your value is in what you do and produce. The question is, when is enough enough? So you're always eternally improving yourself or fixing yourself because you don't know where that feeling of enoughness comes from. Now, when you are approaching self-improvement from, I already am whole and complete, like the tree can be little, the tree can be majestic, but it's always whole. It's done, it's cooked, there's nothing to fix, right? So it just keeps getting nourished and nourished and nourished and growing in power and presence and contribution. So nourishing means you just get to receive more, to be more self-expressed. That kind of self-improvement is an expression of thriving. The tree thrives, right? Everyone else thrives. And that comes through nourishing. That kind of self-improvement, if you want to call it that, then that is something that is a contribution to thriving. But if it's coming from lack, I'm not enough, I'm broken, I need to figure this out, I need to fix myself so that I can finally be enough, then it's a trap that you get caught in. So that's a great cost, okay? Because you're actually never going to arrive, never going to feel fulfilled if that's the lens through which you look at life. Another cost that I see a lot with the women I work with is you struggle with imposter syndrome, which are these internal voices of, I'm a fake, they're going to find me out, I didn't earn this. When doing is the metric of your enoughness or your value or your contribution, how do you know when enough is enough? Okay, again, post comments, questions, let me know how this is landing. Another cost is that you will have difficulty standing up for yourself or even standing for your value, for your innate value. And you see this happening in terms of, I see, I have clients who are negotiating promotions or salaries or compensations. They don't know how to stand in their value. I see entrepreneurs who are coming up with their compensation and they will settle or they will give away a lot of stuff, not from a place of, I want to just give and circulate, but I'm going to settle. Okay. So when you don't believe yourself to be worthy of being championed, or you don't know how to protect yourself, that's because you're not able to connect with that internalized value. Okay. So we have difficulty standing up for ourselves. And there's more ways, more costs, okay? When we are not able to know our value and feel worth it, so to speak, we will control people or conditions externally in order to feel valued and safe. So you will settle for never really truly feeling safe because you don't know how to access an internally referenced source of safety. Our sense of safety comes from, if I can control the outer world, then I will constantly get that feedback of I'm useful, I'm enough, I'm wanted, I'm needed, I'm valued. And so you're always seeking that and needing to control in order to feel valued and safe. There's no unconditional valuing of self exactly as you are in all of your humanity, your full presence. when that piece is malnourished. Another cost, and I see this a lot, is you won't invest in yourself because you don't see your value. So this is getting to nuts and bolts stuff around money and how you spend your money, right? Or how you see what is valued in your life. So you will settle by going without the support and nourishment that would help you to thrive, because you think prioritizing money for yourself is selfish. I've been there. I've done it myself. I see this all the time. Okay, so you will tell yourself, I can't justify that, or it's too expensive. But if you're honest with yourself, sometimes that's true. But many times what I've seen with smart women is that they actually can find the money. There's always a solution if it's for something they value, which is there's money for the kids, there's money for your business, there's money for vacations, there's money for all kinds of things. So it's not about the money many times. It's really about, what are you valuing? You're not seeing your value, and you see it as spending money, which is frivolous or selfish, rather than actually investing in yourself, because your being, your presence is the center, like the tree, of all that you be, all that you are, all that you can contribute. This is a big one for women, smart women. And the seventh one that I'll cover today is that the cost of all of this is you feel insecure, anxious, unsafe, and not enough. You settle for coping and avoidance mechanisms for all of this discomfort, all of these feelings, in order to deal with this internal unrest, because you haven't had the information that would point you to inner peace and self-love. So we have these feelings of insecurity, anxiety, I'm unsafe, I feel vulnerable, I'm not enough, and you just cope. You cope. A lot of coping management tools, rather than actually getting to the root of what you need to find, to relax into inner peace and self-love. So I'd love to hear, whether today or in the replay, what costs resonate for you? How have you been settling? What's here? What's relevant to you? All right. So let's now talk about, and by the way, if you're following along with the handout, each one of these things is here for you to take notes. So write them down if you can, even if you're not using the handout, because that will help keep letting these things sink in a little bit more each time you revisit it. So the small shift that brings big abundance is to shift. This is a point of view shift, and it's a way that you start directing your attention and your awareness. Start shifting from seeking your value in your productivity to discovering the power of your presence. This internally, your mere presence, is where all of your value and your power already exists. You are done, you are cooked, you are whole and complete. You are the tree. Now you get to shift to nurturing and nourishing the tree so that you can thrive generously. So what are some of the concepts about why you would want to start putting your attention inwardly? How is that powerful? How is the power of your mere presence so powerful? It can take you to places that your productivity could never touch. Just like the hunter has narrow focus, focuses on the target, is the sole provider, and can get that thing until it receives it, consumes it, and then it's back to hunting mode, always having to hunt and work hard. The tree, however, can receive so much more than what the hunter could ever hunt. And it's already here, right? So the power of your presence is where you start to tap into the power of your consciousness. Your true power does not lie in the outer world. Your true power lies in consciousness. And your consciousness is the sum total of everything happening in your inner world. Your thoughts, your feelings, your expectations, your memories, everything that you've learned, conscious and unconscious. There's this whole inner world terrain that many of us are much less familiar with. We're very familiar with the outer world terrain about how to be productive and smart and make things happen. But this inner world terrain, it has been malnourished. Again, why? We're products of our environment. Nobody taught us. Or we got some information and we ran with it. And so that's what we learned, but it's actually incorrect. So once you start to realize that your power lies in consciousness and all of that is within, and you start to learn that terrain, you start to become like the majestic tree, able to receive the abundance that's already here. And this is the main idea that I really want to deliver today about the power of your consciousness. Some of you might be familiar with this idea of our consciousness creates our reality. Maybe you're familiar with law of attraction or affirmations and stuff like that. Many people know these little bits and pieces about it, but this is the most important idea that I can offer around manifestation. You don't manifest what you focus on. You manifest how you relate to everything. So if you've got your attention on money, if you're focusing on money, just because you're focused on money doesn't mean you're going to manifest money the way you want to. How you relate to money in any given situation is what will determine what you will manifest around money. So if you're focusing on money and your consciousness has thoughts and feelings that are all generating lack, and so you're relating to money from the place of lack, your experience, what you will manifest, will be a reflection of lack. However, if you know how to relate to money in a way that is based on abundance and possibility and invitation, then you're going to start to experience the manifestation of money showing up, your experience being abundance and infinite possibilities and invitation. And all of that, whatever you're focusing on, is a direct reflection of how you relate to you. All right. When you put your attention on you, your love, your soothing, your nurturing, your attention, your availability, because you value you, life says, oh, she values herself. We're going to give her more love and attention and availability. And if she feels scared and you nurture that, then you're going to receive more love exactly as you are, simply because you exist, not because you're performing, not because you're toughing it out, not because you're being, productive. I talked about in the last class how you will never feel fulfilled if you reject and neglect parts of yourself. So instead of rejecting and neglecting parts of ourselves, we learn to relate to ourselves in ways that are an invitation for love and abundance, because that's how we relate to ourselves. Questions, comments? All of them, Helena. Okay. Thank you for sharing that, because the more you can become, I would say awareness is the key to everything. The more you're aware, the more, here's the thing about awareness. The more you practice being aware without judgment, without, again, no rejection, no neglect, just letting it be here, okay, then that way of relating to yourself invites more kindness, more abundance, because you're relating to yourself with abundance of love, abundance of gentleness, abundance of supply of the attention towards you, instead of pointing out there, the energy flowing out like the hunter out there. Where your attention goes, the energy flows. Okay, so let me give you some more examples about manifestation. If you relate to yourself as, my feelings don't matter, you will manifest others relating to you as, your feelings don't matter. If you relate to yourself as, everyone else's needs are more important than mine, then you will manifest everyone else's needs are more important than yours. Okay. If you relate to yourself as, I'm not going to invest in myself, you'll manifest others not investing in you. I see this all the time, whether it's you're a professional out in corporate America and you're wanting a raise and a promotion, but you won't invest in your being. You'll invest in the hard skills, or the company will invest in you, but you investing in you, that isn't something that's been in your awareness. So how do we expect people to value our being and invest in us if we don't value our being and invest in ourselves? Let's see here. Next one. So on to the next piece in the handout. The non-negotiable requirement for you to stop settling is that you must value yourself before you can ever expect anything or anyone to value you. Now, others will be valuing you, but you will not be able to receive it. I used to have a teacher that say, you will never allow someone to love you more than you love yourself. Same thing with being valued. You will never allow someone to value you more than you love yourself. So it's just the way it works. Your consciousness is the gatekeeper to what you can receive. So we're talking about expanding your consciousness, expanding what you receive about yourself so you can then receive more of all that life is always offering. So this now moves on to missing asset number 1 for that diagram about the 5 missing assets to thrive. The first one is space, 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 space. So we're going to start moving into what you can start practicing. Okay. The first asset that most overdoers are missing is space to be. Simply space to be. All of our space gets taken up with doing, thinking and doing. So your mere presence, where's the space for you to be? Okay. And when there is space, are you actually being with yourself, or are you filling up the space with busy work, checking out more chores, more to-do lists, worrying, thinking, figuring out, analyzing? Do you have any idea how to even be? What the power of being, what the value of being is? Or are you engaging all of the spaciousness and filling it up with doing, things you value about doing? So the first thing is to make space for you to be versus do. The presence practice that I'm offering you to experiment with between now, well, forever, but certainly between now and the next session, is show up for yourself. This means be curious about your feelings, sorry for the typo, your needs, your wants, your preferences, and your limits. This is you showing up for your being. How do you feel? What do you need? What do you want? What do you prefer? What feels like I'm at capacity? And just really receive that. Be curious, journal about it. And I'm going to give you a writing prompt that you can take with you. Where am I settling regarding putting myself first instead of everybody else? You might want to explore ideas about being selfish and the truth of self-valuing that we talked about today. You might want to think about, how would I thrive if I valued myself more, if I were valued more by myself and others? Remembering that they're a mirror reflection. And remember, know this, when you thrive, everyone thrives. This is, you thriving is one of the most generous things you can embody. So this will all be in the handout. I'll send the slides out. That will be available too with the video, okay? So I left this real case study as something that I might talk about depending on time or just point you to. So I invite you to go to the video playlist at surpassyourlimits.com, 5 reasons, there's a client celebrations video where I have a compilation of the kinds of things that people have experienced as they put these practices into their lives. And I'm going to point you to Lara's story. You can find the timestamps. And she talks about valuing herself, truly valuing herself, and the kinds of things that she's manifested in her life. You can watch all of them, but she specifically talks about that. All right. And then finally, this is your opportunity to start filling in the 5 missing assets for thriving. Here's number 1 that we talked about today. You don't believe you're worth it. So in here, number 1 is space. Space to be. All right. So if this is starting to speak to you, pique your curiosity, and you would like to learn more about how I can help you integrate what you learn in this training, feel free to get curious about the Thrive Generously program, Live and Lead from Your Natural Abundance. The doors are open for enrollment now, and the program starts January 31st. I already have some people signed up and ready to go. This is where we're going to do a deep dive into some of the things that we can touch base. And it's really about integrating this into your life. Okay, really opening up to thriving generously. If you're interested, if you'd like to learn more, DM me here on Facebook or email me at customercare@surpassyourlimits.com. And finally, next steps. Now that we've done this number 1 reason, come back for our next session right here. Oh, I said Tuesday, but this is Friday at 12. Post your questions and comments below, DM me. You can submit questions at surpassyourlimits.com/questions. Watch the replay as much as you like. This should be available within 24 hours. And I really look forward to hearing your questions and your comments. I'm going to take a little time now to just check in. Are there any questions that anyone has before I sign off for today? If not, I look forward to reading them in the comments. I'll be checking throughout the next few days and also reading the questions that are submitted. So let me know. Julie, great to see you. So much to digest. Thank you. You are welcome, Julie. Yeah, there's a lot to digest here. I always try to keep these things brief, but this stuff, I will tell you, I'm not the surface girl. I'm here to go deep because that's the way I'm wired, and that's what I offer you. Like, fulfillment is something you feel. It is not something you achieve. And yet fulfillment within is going to be directly reflected in the natural abundance that you experience in your life. So again, you thriving is one of the most generous things you can embody, and I'm here to support you with that. Helena, perfect timing. So glad to hear this. Yay. Thank you for those of you who were here live. I'll be checking back. Catch the replay. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll catch you at the next live Friday at 12. Bye, everybody.